G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the review, not a live one this weekend, sorry. But we will do our live on Tuesday as we normally do. But this is to celebrate the great victory over the New Zealand Warriors yesterday at Accor Stadium in driving rain, surprisingly enough. A really good effort by the boys. Did not give the Warriors a chance. So much composure. It was typically a game that we struggled to dominate with the amount of stoppages in it. But there was obviously, like some people will say, there wasn't much change, and I think the coach would suggest that as well. But there were some key small changes that I think had a huge difference on this result. And the other thing to take into account, which I didn't really mention in the preview to the game, but I did some analysis only yesterday, actually, because I remember the Bulldogs beat the Warriors in the rain last year, and at Accor, it wasn't as heavy as it was last night. And over the last couple of years, the Warriors actually have a much worse record than what we do. I think they're at about 33% of victories in the wet, and we were at about 40 to 50% over the last couple of years, not just this year. So obviously there was a little bit of a change in tactic. We definitely kicked on the third or the fourth tackle more times than we ever have in any game. It was a definite tactic. I know we have done that in the past at different moments, and especially in games in the wet. Matt Burton and Reid Marnie have both tried that, but there was a real conscious effort to share the kicking around and to turn that Warriors team around and have them come out. And even some of the kicks that landed a little bit short, the defensive work of the Bulldogs was absolutely relentless. To see a fullback catch the ball on the 20 and get to the 30, because Tane Tuapiki's he's going to be someone really hard to handle in the next few years, especially on dry tracks. The speed that he gets to the advantage line is exactly what you want in a fullback. The way that he's able to get to balls that look like they're going to hit the ground, he did a really good job, that fullback for the Warriors, and is probably their best player by far. The way that he launched into the line, but he was getting their start sometimes through his great work and speed to get to the ball on the 30 and 40 metre lines. And then you would look at the tackle count 3 or 4 tackles later, and the Warriors had made 10 metres, 20 metres maximum off their 3 or 4 first hit-ups. So they just weren't able to take any advantage. Now, they restricted some of our sets, but our average set was highly reduced by the fact that we kick so early on so many occasions. Like, it happened, probably 7 or 8 times. Just a tactic we haven't used much. And the way that we played the game and then forced them into error really set up our two front rowers to have a much bigger influence on the energy output of the Warriors, because whilst they, players like Jackson Ford were really good in defence, he was probably the best forward on the ground for the Warriors with the amount of work that he did and tidy up work that he did. The fact that Hughes and King both played 26 minutes each, which is easy to do when you've got possession stats of like 67% in your favour. But that was really good. It was really good to see Hughes play the same amount of time as King, and they actually went off together, which was fantastic. I think they'd had about 25 runs between them, which, it's harder to do when coming off your own line, but because we're able to, our halves did a great job of controlling where we were playing the game, and also the defensive work of the whole team across the park really had a strong influence on how we're able to use our front rowers, have them taking plenty of hit-ups, taking the sting out of the opposition's defence, but more so their attack. They had nothing. They got 2 tries. one's from a ricochet, a double ricochet off a kick, and the other one's an intercept. 14 points completely flattered the Warriors, and I think most Warriors fans would say that. Couple of calls that I felt Andrew Voss, who likes to create narratives for his talk shows and stuff and headlines, not just as a commentator, but as a journalist, it seems, turns some pretty blatant, normal sort of calls into 50-50 sort of discussions, and was sort of inciting that the Warriors could feel hard done by, potentially. But, I'm sure most Warriors fans, who I find are the best fans in rugby league when it comes to having an understanding of just being fair for the most point, and having a lot of an understanding dialogue around the game. And like some fans are shit, we know that, but definitely listening to a lot of Warriors fans and Kiwis in general, they have a pretty good understanding. They're very, very fair, and I think a lot of them would feel that, yeah, maybe that could have went our way. Sometimes those things do go your way, but if the shoe was on the other foot, we would be probably, looking at the Bulldogs fans, if they were, because I'm sure our fans would have been angry about some of those things if they went to the opposition. I know that, but honestly, they weren't 50-50s. They were much closer to the right decision. I feel sorry for Adam G, because since refereeing a game where he allowed it to go, he has essentially been basically forced into a scenario where he's calling everything. And yeah, it was so stop start. It's already going to be stop start in that sort of weather, but the way that he refereed that game was a little bit frustrating. But what I love is that the Bulldogs have their mentality. People talk about disruptions and all that sort of stuff. I find that the mentality changed, that they felt that they were at a point in the season even, and had got a player that was going to enhance their attack, that are able to just, do the work and then go through the motions and put the foot on the neck sort of thing, and run away with games. And I've seen a really big shift in that in the last 3 weeks. Actually, even in the Dragons game, like there were some periods where the mindset, I felt, was getting a little bit impatient, and that's what it's sort of been. It's been impatience. And what I've seen from the get-go, just from the whole side yesterday, was composure, and a composure that wasn't there against Wests. I'm not sure if I pointed it out, but I find that Crichton going up against Romy was interesting, and then Romy's like the leader of that posse. He's the leader, and they're still great friends. Don't listen to anyone who says they're not. Critter's got his lifetime mates, and that's just the end of it. But he puts his club way first, and he was a little bit rattled last week. Like, he was trying so hard, but this week the effort was there again, the involvement was there again, and he's starting to rack up some pretty good statistics from that attacking fullback role. And I just love the way he turned the ball inside numerous times yesterday, and then picks his time to run. And he was always going to score. I knew when he ran that ball that he was going to beat them. You could just see it. I think many Bulldogs fans would agree with me that they could see that happening once he took them on that very first contact. I'm like, he's going to break. Yes. And I was just like, so that was probably the most animated I was in the whole game, because I just felt the composure of the side was like we were playing it. We knew we were playing a team and we were better than them, but we had to go out there and earn it. And they earned every part of that match. They implemented a game plan perfectly. And there were a couple of slight tweaks. Obviously, a lot more kicking early, with multiple kickers prepared to do it and the team on board with it. And I think that they're talking about Milky's communication. And look, I think he might be a better communicator than Reed, and that's what it's going to come down to. Reed's very emotional, and look, I love Reed, and there were many people that were worried that Bailey Hale was going to start tomorrow, and honestly, yesterday. But that doesn't mean it's going to be all cool sailing for Bailey. He'll quickly learn that that position, mastering that position, takes time. And I think the fact that he is such a good footballer, and the Bulldogs have identified that way ahead of anyone else, including most of the fan base, and the wider public still isn't on board with how good Bailey Hayward is. I think there's a real chance that he's that good that he will progress faster than most. But I do see the need for us to have some depth in that hooker position moving forward, especially if he gets injured. You know, there's going to be some headaches. I'm expecting Tupanua back next week. There's a lot of talk Tracy will be back next week. I think that may be delayed another week. I'm not sure. I think there'll be a lot of selections. We might see Tracy and Tupanua on extended benches, or one of them on the extended bench and one in the side. Who comes out is going to be interesting, but we'll talk more about that in our normal podcast on Tuesday night. But we'll go through these statistics. We'll have a really good look at it. Look, just looking at that performance visually, I think many people would feel safe to say that we just dominated the entire match. And it didn't matter how long it was 2-2. The fact that we're willing to kick goals and just stay composed really set that up. And it's just the mindset change that I noticed. And a big congratulations to Lachlan Galvin's performance. I thought he was our best 4 players on the field in a game where we had no one who was poor. I rate every person in their role a minimum 7 out of 10 yesterday, with all of our leaders above 8 or more, if rating them out of 10. Kikau, I felt, was his most composed, best performance he's had in a very, very long time. The fact that he just had no intention to be passing footies, and the fact that he set up tries on the other side, with the way he was able to penetrate through and allow us to have the ability to run another short side, or just put it through the hands and go to the right and score. The very fact that I thought Anari Tawala won the day as our best outside back. Look, Critter was playing a hybrid role. So obviously in good attacking footy, he was a fullback, which is what they did the week before. It made me laugh that they sort of didn't realise it till late in the game yesterday, or the second half, I think. Kiraz much better yesterday. Still got his arm isolated in a return carry, but he was definitely had worked on his returns and how to not be so much of a target, because it is different. It is completely different to what his normal role is, and obviously a little bit easier in those conditions for everybody to make their tackles. And I think we only missed like 17 tackles or something, or even less in the whole match. So really strong performance for the Bulldogs. We will look at the actual team statistics and a couple of standouts. But, as I said, just to recap, the fact that we kicked early, the props were able to really take a lot of sting out of the opposition. We didn't expose our little men hardly at all to being ganged up on and bullied. And when you're in the wet, the little guys tend to, it brings the speed gets brought back. The big men can, cover the ground, get hold of them and jolt those balls free, which we saw a lot of that the previous week, where we lost a lot of balls from our smaller men as well. So there were some tweaks in how they went about it. The game plan was still pretty much the same, but the mentality and the composure is what I really loved, and that sets us up for the Roosters. The Roosters have started to hold on to the ball a little bit, started to have some possession, but when defense is weak and when things open up and they exploit a team like they did yesterday, they've got a really you know, confident attack, and it'll stick. Do I expect they're going to go through and beat teams by 20 and 30 points on the run home? I don't think so. But look, Canterbury, Penrith, Melbourne, and the Roosters are going to play each other at least once, or play all of those teams at least once. So the Dogs are going to play the whole three of them. I think Roosters will play the Dogs and the Storm, or the Dogs and Penrith. No, I think it's Dogs and Storm. Storm plays Penrith this week. So those two teams both play us, and the Storm also plays the Roosters. So it's the winner of those matches is going to determine, well, for Penrith, if they beat the Bulldogs and Melbourne beat the Bulldogs, and then we have a loss to the Roosters and get beaten by the Sharks, we'll finish fourth. That's where we're likely to finish, in fourth spot, if we lose all 4 games. If the Warriors win, I think they need to win 3 or 4 of their last 4 to jump us, if we were to lose 4. And I don't see that happen. I think we can definitely win 2 games and possibly 3 or 4. I wouldn't put it past us at all, but I'm counting that we're going to win 2 and potentially 3. As long as the performance is strong and we're competitive in all of those matches, though, that's all that matters leading into a final. Top 4's almost, we get one more win and we're probably going to make the top 4. We lose all 4, we could be at risk of dropping out. If we get 2 or 3 wins, we can finish top 2. So beating Melbourne would be imperative, and hoping that they have another loss as well. But either way, we're finishing 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. There's still a chance for 1st. This game is, as we know, can flip on its head week to week, and you can go from, feeling great about your team and confident about your chances to feeling like it's all going to fall apart. And, those people sort of try to protect their own egos that keep writing us off, especially our own fans. I just wish, I just love seeing these results, because it, just keep the faith is all we say at All Things Bulldogs. Pete's favourite saying, and it's become a trademark of our group, which I love. So yeah, let's get stuck into some stats. So Dogs 32, Warriors 14, in front of 25,000 people. Great job by Bulldogs fans and Warriors fans, and a great representation of Indigenous round. 5 tries to 2. Really, I'm calling that 5 tries to none. There was nothing lucky about our points, I will say. So here's the team stats. We ended up with 56% possession, so they had more in the second half. 5 minutes more with the ball, completing at 84% in the end. 38 from 45 sets, but 166 runs to 132, and making about 250 more meters. Obviously, more post contact. 6 line breaks to 0 is just emphasises our dominance. Tackle breaks 44 to 14. I've never seen anything like that. Probably from some of our teams on the other end. But the average set distance, much closer than one would have thought. But that's because we kicked. If we decide to run another 2 plays, we're well ahead of that. But maybe the game changes a little bit and they have a bit more energy. But we see and kick return meters, we're getting the go with that. We won the play the ball speed again, so we've been averaging around 3.5. Last week against the Tigers, they were holding us down for almost 4 seconds, conceding 3.64 for the opposition, which showed we worked a lot harder in the ruck and were able to generate penalties from it. And that's something that I said that I really wanted to see, was our team fight a little bit harder on the ground. There's also a big change in, see this stat down here, dummy passes. We're one of the teams who dummies less than any other team in the comp. So for us to have 22 to the opposition 6, that was a change in strategy. Offloads 5-3 in those sort of conditions. Max King did one which was intercepted. Obviously, a lot more balls received by our guys and passed. Kicking 22 each meters, and Matty Burton does the absolute best 2010 that I've ever seen. Good work catching all the bombs, lots of little grubbers, repeat sets for our guys. So Galvin and Berto got a couple of repeat sets, which was really strong. Tackles, we ended up making nearly as many tackles as them, which is really interesting. 14 missed tackles would be one of the best results we've had in a very, very long time. And the opposition 44. 5 ineffective to 9, negative play, 8 errors each. We conceded 8 penalties in the end. A few of theirs were in a row in different times. Our penalties were, we did get help out of yardage sometimes, and I felt our fight on the ground really helped us. Ruck infringements, they committed 5 of those, and I didn't see an issue with any one of them. I felt that G got those right, and we had one player on report. It was good to see Sam Hughes again get some more minutes in the second half in a second stint. I'm not sure if Curran, who got a burner earlier in the day, was affected by that. But we'll look at the player stats now. Presto again, 39 tackles. He was again phenomenal in his go. Kiraz with 153. But looking at the minutes played, Sam Hughes played 37, so he got an 11-minute stint in the second half. Reed only played 16. Maxi played 48, which is average. Kickow played 77, so he obviously had to come off at the end. Presto 80. Salmon come on for a second stint, played 40 in total. I think he played like the first 28 or 29 minutes. And Kurt Mann did that role and stayed on for quite a while with 35 minutes. Harry Hayes did well. And Josh, he ended up playing 35 overall, and Bailey Hayward basically 70 minutes. So let's have a look at that. Tuala and Karaz, you can see that like our backs didn't have to do as much work as far as yardage was concerned. There's a lot more emphasis on that, but the fact that we just kicked early so many times took away from the amount of hit-ups that we were taking. It was really well shared around, but King and Hughes to take 17 and 14 respectively was huge for us. They were getting belted a little bit as well. Post-contact was strong for both. Hughes did a really good job in that area. Kick out 12 runs, a lot of tough runs and a lot of good runs and a lot of strategic runs. Presto he pretty much got starved of possession, but he's out there doing his defensive work. Salmon, similar. Kurt Mann played really, really well, and he's backed up last week with another really good performance. And Harry Hayes toiled well when he come on. I felt Josh was probably, I think he got a little bit injured, and it took a bit of sort of heat from what he did from that point. But, and Bailey had 4 runs for 5 meters. which is interesting. Um, Tackle efficiency, really happy with that. That's probably one of our best all year. But Lockie Gow and Matt Burton not forced to do as much work, which helps with all the possession. Um, Jacob Carraz didn't have to make a tackle all day. Jethro and Bronson a few. So they really didn't even get to attack us on the edges at all, which is normal in wet weather footy. But the forwards all stood up. It was a game of the forwards. Preston 39 tackles. Josh Curran 23 tackles, didn't miss any, which is fantastic. Harry 28, Kurt 20, Jamin 26, the Minister of Defence. And yeah, really good effort. And Reed come on and did his best, and he had a nice run too. So he took advantage of it. He was fresh and he was able to run the footy, nearly made a break, nearly made a couple of breaks. So very impressed with that. Kicking, so I was really impressed with the amount of kicks that Lachlan Galvin put in. He actually did more than Burton in the end. Obviously, can't kick as far. Forced 3 dropouts, 4 between them. Put up the only bomb for the Bulldogs, putting 3 grubbers. So really good effort. Bailey's kick was much better, 55 metres for the one that he did. So much better in that regard. And the 40-20 by Matt Burton was sensational. Hardly any errors. Bailey made a couple. That pass to Harry Hayes after he did the charge down was a little bit sad because I thought that was just such a good play. A few handling errors for the fullback, but the fullbacks are going to make those in those conditions. So there you go. That's an overview of the stats. So Maxi King played 20, 26 and then 22. Sam played 25, then 10. Now, look, if we're chasing points, Sam Hughes doesn't come back on, or if it's a 10th sort of scenario, they're going to stick more with the mobile players than have too many big bodies on the field. But yeah, really good to see. Curran only come on the last 3 minutes for Kikau, so after his 31-minute stint. And Bailey played 70 minutes and spent about 6 minutes playing lock after Marnie came on. So there you go. So let's have a look at one of our tries in slow motion. I think this was after a Viliami kick-out run. We scored it down our right edge. I was really happy with this. And Galvin was taking it to the line. Aaron Clark. Presto runs a decoy, but Critter's starting to just build a really good little resume of what he's doing in this fullback role. And Anari Tawala, perfect play. So there you go. Loving it. And while we're at it, let's have another look at this wonderful kick by Matty Burton. There we go. The Carray's obviously taking the ball out. Sorry, it's a bit blurry. Gets that offload, keep it alive, and then he just goes bang from about 22 metres out. And the way it goes inwards and outwards, all deliberate. Sorry for stuff in the way. And then crosses the 10-metre line. Like, you're not going to see it much better than that. That was just absolutely brilliant. Until Peaky, he's hard to navigate. Like, he's getting around and was cutting off so many things. Matty Burton, though, don't underestimate. People start saying, yeah, he goes to the centre and he's going to go to fullback or he's going to go to lock because it'll be Woods and Galvin. No, it's Matt Burton and one of those two. If we've got to have our best team on the paddock, well, we just find a spot for all of them. But when you've got a half who can do that, you have to utilise them in their best way. And I've just loved what he's done this year. from a playmaking point of view, from a running point of view. He's just been the epitome of a 5'8" role this year. And when he influences the game this way, we inevitably do not lose. He is that important, and he's going to be worth a stack of money to a side that wants him over the next couple of years. So salary cap management will be very, very important moving in to decisions around Matt Burton. And we will see some people that we are in love with that do not progress. We might see some leave that we don't expect next year. And definitely the year after, there'll be a lot of big names that we have to either retain or replace. And that's going to be very, very interesting. But I obviously looking forward to next year having a Leo Thompson. He's not had the best year in a team that struggled, but a player that can play 55 minutes on average every week is higher than what Maxi King's putting out and on average. And he does a lot of work in the defence. And obviously, losing most games, you're going to have to defend more, aren't you? So it's all relative. You get him in a good side and you watch how well he will do and go. But we are getting beyond the review when we're talking about that sort of stuff. So I'm happy to keep that running, but I will turn it off now. How big am I? Too big. So let's discuss who the man of the match was. In my opinion, it was a split hair between Stephen Crichton and Viliami Kikau, and then another split hair between Matt Burton and Lachlan Galvin for their control. Very happy with the performance of Anari Tuala. Bailey Hayward did a really good job. Every single player performed at a high level. And, we're not the finished product. There's still a game that was affected heavily by stop-start, but it was just really good to see the Bulldogs have the composure to play that type of game, and another feather in their cap and in their belief. And they keep proving doubters wrong all the time. Do the Bulldogs, and that's what I love. Another top 4 team, obviously smashed by injuries and that sort of stuff. No one's taken away from that. But we did exactly what you should do with a side like that, that's depleted like that. And we took them out of the game. And for that, you have to give a lot of credit to the coach and more so to the players out there who have done an outstanding job. And what I expect to see moving forward now, we're going into the Roosters. The stats for the Roosters and the Bulldogs are very interesting to look at where they do really well. Roosters are a side that make a lot of breaks and stuff, but do they turn into points? Well, they're very good at scoring points, and we saw that against the Dolphins. So, they're going to be a very tough team, but I'm confident we can go out there and put a real dent in their finals aspirations. And that's exactly what I expect to see on enemy territory at Allianz Stadium on Friday night, 8:00. It's going to be an absolute big game, the game of the round, in my opinion. Obviously, Penrith and Melbourne's pretty big as well, which is on the night before. So looking forward to both those games to see where both those sides are at. I'm expecting the Panthers to beat the Storm. I really am. But we will see. This is where it all starts to hot up. This is the final phase into the finals. That last little section after Origin, we won 3, lost 1. I felt that was going to probably be where we would end up, but sort of disappointing that we didn't get the 4 wins, which would have made it almost an absolute lock for top 4 if we'd done that. now we've got this phase of the Roosters, Storm, Panthers, and Sharks. And if the Sharks drop a couple of games between now and then, it's going to be a big game for them. But that's good. That's what we need. We need teams that are desperate. And there's desperation there. There's desperation for the Panthers to make top four. There's desperation for the Storm to win a minor premiership or finish top two. Same for us. There's just desperation everywhere. Desperation for the Roosters to make the 8. And because they're right there. And, you know, having Hugo Savala and his kicking game really helps them. And then having, you know, they have that yin and yang with their halves combo. And I feel we have that as well. So the composure of Lachlan Gowland yesterday was massive in the confidence I have for our team, because he and Matt controlled that game with their kicking game, and that's what you want from your halves always. They did their work in defence. Yeah, had a couple of moments where we conceded a bit of ground, but for the most part, it was just strong across the field. They're going to have a lot of hard running players next week across the field, running lines, asking questions one-on-one, asking questions of our defence. And if they get a roll on and get speed through any part of it, we're going to have to bring our A game to match it. They have 5 or 6 internationals and a couple that are going to be picked in representative sides, no doubt, in their squad. And I felt that they've managed them quite well, the Roosters. I'm not usually complimentary of them, but they do have a habit of inexplicably throwing passes, dropping balls when playing against the better teams. And I feel that we can force them into that as well. And when we do that, they will struggle to play out the 80 minutes, which I expect us to do that. So, yeah, this is a big game. And I think Robinson, as soon as that Dolphins game finished, his brain was ticking hard on how he beats the Bulldogs. And that's not a bad thing, because I think Cameron Serrato and our team's mindset yesterday was probably the strongest I've seen it. And if they can just maintain that, to go out there and believe how good they are, to know how good they are, and to know that the game is on them more so than the opposition, it's a good place to be in. So thanks for tuning in, guys. It's a much more, a shorter review this week. Obviously not answering questions and that sort of thing, but we will do all that on Tuesday. We'll be here for a couple of hours, ready to answer all your questions and hear your feedback and what you think, and to potentially debate some things and whatever else. But hopefully you enjoyed this today. I know it's hard to be as sort of passionate when you're by yourself, I must say, but really, really happy about the team, about the club, about the performance. The women, they got they really struggled, and they've struggled early in most of the matches they've played and sort of warmed into it. They just couldn't have that happen, and it looks like Taylor Preston has a really bad injury, and maybe a season-ending one. That news may already be there. I just haven't seen or heard it yet. New South Wales Cup, they can't make the finals now. It's impossible. But they played really, really well in many parts of that game. Bit of connection issue, few really poor defensive errors from individuals cost us that game. As it turns out, 34 points to 30 was the final score that we lost by. We led 30-22 with about, I think, 15 minutes to go, and lost it from there, conceding 2 tries, both converted. So, yeah, that was sad, but still all those players have a lot to play for. There's Jersey Flegg had a really impressive win against the Warriors, who haven't done as well this year in Jersey Flegg, but are still a very capable side and put us under a lot of pressure, and there was nothing in the game. We got that final try to get some space and then got another one, and I think won 26-14 in the end, which was good because we're currently 6th and we need to finish top 5 to make the finals in Jersey Flegg. And they've had a really disrupted year with the amount of players coming in and out from on both sides, going up and down. And out to Ron Massey. Ron Massey got flogged during the week, I think, against the Dirty Reds, which was a bit sad for them, but a lot of young guys out there tried hard. So yeah, really happy that the Jersey Flegg got it done. I haven't looked at the results for the Harvey Norman women's yet. I'm sure they would have got a win, though. I'll just bank on that at this point. But New South Wales Cup out of the running to make the finals, but so much to play for because any one of those players could be called upon to fill a role in the run home and potentially in the finals if need be. So they'll all be looking to finish off as strongly as possible, especially players like Curtis Moran, who played his 100th club game on the weekend, and he'll be going to the Titans at the end of the season. So he scored a really good try. You got Lipboy Hopboy scored a really good try off a good assist from Sexton. Blake Wilson, a great catch from a Sexton bomb, and then stepped around some players to score an amazing try, which was fantastic. Couple of defensive issues on the day as well, and one was crucial where he slipped over, but that's not really his fault. That happens. Jonathan Sewell was pretty good from the other side. He got a good try off a Mitch Woods cutout pass. So lots of good stuff. And Jack Todd, a really strong individual try where he's just taken it one off the ruck and about 10, 15 metres out and just stepped through the line, stepped through them and ran to the line 10 metres to score. Just with his footwork from catching the footy. The left foot step was phenomenal, and then the footwork as he got through, just special. And that's the sort of talent we've got coming through. So knowing that, there's some players in our club that we like and we enjoy watching that have contributed to us and are part of the reason we're doing so well that won't be in our side maybe next year or the year after. I'm not going to mention names because it'll start debates, but there will be some people leaving our club. Unfortunately, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, and hopefully when they do leave, they leave in a lot more money, which is what we want to see. Anyway, people, thanks for tuning in, and well done to the Bulldogs. A comprehensive victory of 32 points to 14, and we now look forward to the Roosters on Friday night, which is going to be a massive game. So hopefully everyone gets down there and watches, and that stadium is a sellout. That would be phenomenal. Thanks for watching. Go the Dogs.